You need to know that though I'm going to have a talk about camps, not all of them are the ones where you're in the wilderness, sleep in a tent and have grand adventures, even though that's what I assumed camps were supposed to be. Also, whenever I talk about things I didn't really like as a younger child, I'm not trash talking any of these events, because in the end, most of the times they were actually always fun, even if I didn't know it back then. Finally, you, dear viewer who clicked on this video with its odd title and weird thumbnail, thanks for giving me a chance. So let's see what's in store today. I know that the COVID-19 virus outside is having a lot of negative effects on pretty much all of us, myself included. Although I'm an introvert, I've also got things I do really miss. But there is one bigger thing that I miss, and I think all of my young friends agree with me on this. Don't get me wrong, I do think every situation will eventually lead to something better. How worse it may look, it's probably something that we should learn from. But I really like for our activity camps to return soon. Until then, I guess I'll stay here, have a look back and tell you about all the previous camps I've went to. And I do say camps in between quotes because they're not really camps. At least not the definition of a camp that I learned. Except for one, which we'll talk about first. Now, if you don't know what Brunstad Ungdomsclub is, these people organize the camps for us. But before all that, we've also had smaller, more real survival camps. We've always done activities and I didn't always like them. They mostly involved sports, obstacle runs, jumping in ditches full of gross water with inflated sharks. I'm not even kidding. And worst of all, night games. Okay, obviously I'm joking. These weren't really awful activities and we always did do a lot of other fun activities with each other. It's just some of them I enjoyed less personally. Looking back at it now, I'm glad we at least did something healthy and not gaming. But there was this one camp, a survival camp, that was just too brutal for 12-year-old me. Boys Camp 2014. No, I'm not traumatized, nor thankful. I think everyone enjoyed it, except me. There were the good, fun and memorable moments, and the moments where I questioned myself if I'd ever see anyone alive again. When my parents asked me if I wanted to go to a survival camp, because my brother didn't want to go, but they thought if I went he'd go too. And he eventually did, but I hadn't seen him for the entire camp, so what did it even matter? I thought it was going to be just the friends I knew, a small group, 1 or 2 days in the forest with a tent. I was just guessing it will probably be fun. Right? I was wrong. I was so wrong! As soon as we arrived, I already noticed a huge amount of people, split into tinier groups named after countries. I ended up in a group with no one I recognized and never talked to. To this day, I can name 2 group members who I sometimes talked to. Well, they talked to me, I never said anything back. And I still see one of them frequently, and he's married and happy, while I still have nightmares about burning feet, falling off the steps and cycling my legs to death. You see, what we did is travel to Germany and we'd basically have to get back home, using bicycles, steps and feet. As someone who loses his energy for the day after 5 steps to the kitchen, I wasn't happy about that. After 1 day, I was already basically done with it. The first night, we didn't even have tents. We had one giant ground sheet we hung on some trees. We slept on these. I don't even know what they are. They are thinner than 2D objects. Bugs were everywhere. Our lunch was just these gross dry crackers and I don't even want to start about dinner. 3 days. We did this for 3 days. And then 2 more days in this camp in the woods. Some games were fun. And others were disgustingly terrible. At a certain point we had to kill our own dinner as well. So that was horrifying. Yep. And probably one of the worst moments ever. Jumping in a ditch full of disgusting water. I think even the toughest of people hated this. My brother threw up. All of us and our clothing stank for days. Sometimes weeks after they were washed multiple times. And I was so done with it. That afternoon, when we were finally picked up, I think I've never slept so good in a moving van. And I sleep terrible in cars. So 5 days of this. 5 days of walking, stepping and cycling, playing challenges I hated, eating gross food, sleeping horribly, getting woken up super early with the most annoying air horn sound ever, and being the weakest of everybody who participated. Although I may have disliked it as a kid, now that I'm old, at least I'm still one of those people who can proudly say they've gone on a real camp, even if I was probably the weakest out of everybody. And that was the first and last survival camp I've ever went to. I did go to other activity camps, but only because they weren't survival camps. Nope, no, never again. Summer Camp 2016. This one was actually fun. It was at this moment that I wanted to do something with film. So I participated in the media workshop. I learned how to operate a camera and filmed, then edit a video, and it was really exciting. It's really fun to see other people do stuff while you just point a giant camera in their face. I also got to operate switching the screens during a play in the middle of the week, and it was the most fun activity I ever did in my life. We also kinda did a challenge where we went to the city and played a bunch of games, but nothing more special. And then at the end there was this odd comedic character they made up. It was made out of a tripod with a hat and jacket and played by a pre-recorded voice. And they operated him by having these two guys playing as guards, putting one of their arms in the sleeves, and that was really hilarious. And that's all to say about Summer Camp 2016. For that year, there were a lot of other activity camps I went to. Unfortunately, this is starting to get really long, so that'll be told in the next part. For now, more awesome content will come. Stay safe, stay put. I hope you're doing well during these pandemic times. And give a helping hand to those who really need it. Even if it's just a nice text message with some encouraging words, it could really help. So that's all. Thank you.